I've had mixed emotions when it comes to this new Marvel Legends Iron Man Mark 20 or 24. See, when it was first revealed, I thought, hard pass. I already have my Ultimate Iron Man, I don't need another one. But then I saw some of the articulation and I thought, well, I could start an Ultimate Alliance collection. But now that I finally have them in hand, my overall thoughts are right back where they started. Mixed. And I'll tell you why I feel that way right after this intro. What's going on, folks? Kinda Collecting here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, if this is your first video, again, welcome. And if you've been here before, we pretty much family now, so what up, Oos? Oh, by the way, I talked to Jarvis the other day, and he told me to tell you to drop a like on the video. I ain't asked no questions because I don't want AI to learn my tendencies, but if you feel safe doing that, that's on you. I had high expectations for this Iron Man figure, which is strange for me because 1, I don't collect Iron Man suits. 2, he doesn't necessarily fall into my Marvel vs. Capcom collection. And 3, I already have Revoltech as my end-all be-all Iron Man, and that figure is hard to compete with. But I thought that for the price, maybe, just maybe, he could stand in for him if he ever called in sick. I also have fond memories of playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and this suit mimics that same design from that game. With that being said, I may have set myself up for failure on this one. The articulation is disappointing to say the least. The accessories are lackluster at best, and about the only saving grace with this figure is its design. Aesthetically, this figure is beautiful. Now, I'm not heavy in the comics, but I love a great character design no matter the medium. I also know how to research and see how close a figure matches the source material, and this figure does a really good job recreating an Iron Man armor. Now, the name of the figure is the Model 20, however, the suit this figure is actually modeled after is called the Mark 24 in the comics, and it nails that design. The panels give the suit a hell of a lot of character. Those details alone are what truly attracted me to this figure. His arc reactor has a hint of white paint in it that gives it the illusion of a glow, and his mask is beautiful. All the angles and sculpting give him an attitude that you shouldn't be able to express through a mask. And I love the shade of red and gold they used throughout his suit. It all shines like a metallic suit should. Now, some people aren't a fan of the marbling effect this type of paint sometimes causes, but it doesn't bother me in the least. Again, when it comes to the design aspect of this Iron Man, Hasbro did a phenomenal job. I just wish they would have put that same amount of attention into the rest of this figure. I'll be honest with y'all, this title overlay may be up longer than it actually takes me to get through these accessories. Speaking of which, Iron Man comes with 2 Mink Minks, 2 repulsor blasting hands, and 4 blast effects to plug into his hands and feet. That's it. And if the pose with the blasters look unnatural, there's a reason for that. Truly, the lack of accessories on this dude is upsetting. I would have liked to have seen at least one unmasked or a partially unmasked helmet, similar to what they're doing with the new Hulkbuster. And I know there are plenty of Tony Stark's heads already out there, but for somebody who doesn't collect a lot of Iron Man like myself, I don't own any of them. On top of that, a finger putting hand would have been really nice too. But lastly, the repulsor hands could have been so much better. And I'll show you what holds it back in the articulation section. Alright, strap yourselves in. It's time to talk about the articulation. Now, I'm always the first to admit that I'm not the articulation guy. And I stand on my thoughts that POAs mean absolutely nothing if the character can't do what it needs to do. With that being said, there's a lot of POAs on this guy, and he can't do a lot of what I need him to do. But on the positive side, Legend did a great job giving Iron Man the ability to look up and down. Flight poses go crazy with this dude. The legs have a very solid feel to them with a hinge at the knee that almost clicks into place. And to my knowledge, I believe this is Hasbro's first Iron Man to feature butterfly joints, which help with poses that require a lot of arm movement. Alright, we got that out the way? Okay, now we can really talk about this figure. Now, the most frustrating part about this figure is that it has a lot more points of articulation, but a lot of them are either limited or downright useless. The arms have double jointed elbows, but the elbows don't sit flat so he can't straighten his arm. The torso has a ball joint that aids in bending backwards, but not much forward. And they decided to use a swivel at the waist as opposed to an ab crunch. And not only does that swivel cut right through the design of the suit, but it doesn't help nearly as much as a nap crunch would have. Now the leg articulation really isn't that bad. It kicks forward enough, though I wish it could kick a little bit higher, and it can hit the splits, which is absolutely unnecessary. And it's easy enough to get them into the makings of a superhero landing pose, but the lack of an ab crunch combined with that limited torso movement make that task a lot harder than it should be. Which is why you'll see everybody posing this guy just like the promo pics, because that's about the only way you can get them into that stance. And the second most frustrating thing to me about this Ironman are the ankles and wrists. The ankles move forward slightly, but the armor blocks it from fully extending both forward and backward, and the repulsor hands have a hinge to move up and down, but the plate on the hand restricts it from bending back all the way, which prevents Iron Man from being able to properly perform one of his most basic attacks. Those hands would have been a great opportunity for Hasbro to take some artistic liberties and either move that plate up or just make it smaller. Instead, they did neither. So when it comes to the articulation setup on this figure, it's questionable at best. And if I'm being honest, it's one of the most frustrating figures I've played with all year. I can't tell you how many times I went to hunch him forward or put him into a pose that I thought he could do just to realize, oh yeah, it's never gonna happen. With that being said, let's see what we can get him into with these poses. For everything Iron Man lacks in the articulation department, he starts to make up for it in his scale. Let's get into the size comparisons. So first off, we have the Marvel Legends Deluxe War Machine and the amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Iron Man. Hasbro's battle with inconsistency needs to be studied, cause this War Machine has less points of articulation, but the articulation points they gave him make him so much more fun to play with. And one day I'll get around to reviewing this Revo Iron Man, but quick analysis, he's darn near perfect. He's got tiny hands though. Next up we have the Legends Black Widow and Select Hulk. The contrast between these three, both height-wise and color-wise, are amazing. Action scenes with these three and the other Avengers will be fire. I'm just not gonna be the one to do them. Speaking of Avengers, here's the Legends Thor and the Legends Destroyer. That Thor is kind of like a kit bash of multiple Thors that I bought that way, and then I threw a custom cape on them, but the vibrant colors on them don't really mesh that well with this Iron Man. I do love the height difference though. Now we have two of my favorite Legends with the Ursula Major Ultron and the Uncanny Wolverine. These two figures scale great with Iron Man, and the fun factor on both of them are a 10 out of 10. I was able to get that Logan at a Target sale too, so it's the best $12 I've ever spent. Next up we have two pupils of Tony in the What If Killmonger and the Iron Spider, both from Legends. And I may or may not have a Revoltech Iron Spider on standby for the near future, so be on the lookout for that. The scale between these three are whatever. And last but not least, we'll end with what could have been, with the Jada Toys Ryu and Chun-Li. The figures scale great together, obviously, but again, the colors on Iron Man don't mesh well with these two. It's just not as vibrant. Now, if I do try another Iron Man Legends, I think I'll have to try the Deluxe Retro one. It's definitely got the colors down pat, I just wish it had more beef to it. That's why I've been so hesitant to pull the trigger on them. So you know how people will say a figure was so good that they couldn't put it down? Yeah, I'd be fine if I never picked up this figure again. And again, I really wanted to like this Iron Man suit, but the questionable articulation choices absolutely killed my experience with this guy. Now, if you collect every Iron Man and you have to have every model to fill out your Hall of Armor, then again, aesthetically, this guy is beautiful. But if you're not that collector like myself, then this is an easy pass. Anyway, man, that does it for today's video. If you agree or disagree with my take on this figure, let me know in the comments down below. I'm not gonna argue with you, but if you get a little bit too crazy, I'm definitely telling not to. Stay tuned for the shots at the end. Until next time, protect your peace, stay young at heart, and remember, we're all kind of collecting something, even if it's not that great.